Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I am going to show you my complete seed collection. Everything that I currently own, whether I bought it at a local nursery, ordered it online, collected it from neighbors, friends, or family, you're gonna see the entire collection. And I will also be showing you a few seed catalogs that I am interested in potentially ordering from this year. I have a couple that are tried and true seed companies that I typically order from if I am ordering seeds, but there are a lot that I researched this year that I think I'm going to try to potentially order a couple seed packets, see how I like the company, and who knows, maybe I have a new favorite seed company at the end of this gardening season. And then lastly, I will go over with you my wish list of seeds that I am interested in buying for 2025. So this wish list could consist of something that I've had my eye on for a little bit, something that just looks really interesting to grow. And it could even just be something that I always really wanted to try eating and feel like maybe purchasing seeds and growing it from scratch would encourage me to actually eat the item, no matter how crazy it may be. But that's what we'll be going over in today's video. So if you are interested in seeing my seed collection, seeds I want to order for 2025, and some of my new favorite seed companies and the catalogs that I like to peruse as I gear up for every garden season, stick around. Okay, so starting off, I'm going to show you my current seed collection. And so that is going to be everything inside this fancy little guy right here. So you may remember this box from my very first video after my introduction video to the channel, where I organized my seeds. They used to be in this old little like antique jewelry box. I think that's what it was used for previously. And basically, I outgrew that box basically after my first year here in Tennessee. So I've been outgrowing that for over 2 years at this point. So I upgraded to this fun box. As you can see, I've decorated it with some fun stickers from companies I like on Etsy. So I'm going to go through this and we'll go through, basically, I have it organized by the month that I would start the seeds because we are in February now. And I'm going to be getting ready to start tomatoes, peppers, pretty much all of my herbs, onions, celery, and maybe one or two other flower varieties here over the next week. And I figured, why not show you guys what's going on in here? This thing gets heavier by the day, it seems. So let's take a look inside. So inside the box, it's organized by month that I would start the seeds, like I said. So so far, I have January through August, skipping June and July. There isn't a ton that I can sow down here in June or July that wouldn't get absolutely burnt to a crisp before it had a chance to germinate. So we're skipping those months for now. But I also have a pack in here, or a little box in here, that's dedicated just to my herbs, because to me, herbs, I can really sow them all year round. I don't have to sow them just at certain times of year. Yes, if I want to put them outside at some point or have them actually live in the garden without being protected by, like, being potted indoors, yes, those need to be started at a certain time and then transferred, or transplanted, I should say. But for the most part, all my herbs, like I said, start around the same time. So I have a box for that. I also have a box for wildflowers, or just what I call my unknowns. You may have heard me mention that in my seed organization video. And this is another one where the sowing times are kind of all over the place between, the type of flower that it is or where I got it. And sometimes I don't even know what's in there. It doesn't give me any direction. So I just have like a little section just for wildflowers. So we'll start off with the January and February boxes, because that's kind of where we're at right now. January, yes, we are in February, like I mentioned, in 2025 right now, but The January seeds, technically you can sow them into February, sometimes even into March for my particular frost dates. I think my first frost date or my last frost date this year is April. I want to say it's like April 23rd or right around the middle of April. And then my first frost date isn't until October. So really you can kind of like, you have a little bit of leeway with kind of sowing seeds, and I'll get into that in my seed starting video that will be coming up after this one. So let's take a look at the January box. Okay, so in the January box right now, I have celery and eggplant. Now, celery is definitely one that if you grow it, especially in the South, you want to start it earlier rather than later because it's a frost tolerant crop. So that's great. You can really grow it in the middle of winter depending on how cold it gets. But celery is one that has a pretty long like harvest. I would say it says it's 100 to 120 days. So that's a pretty long time. And if you're somebody that lives in a cooler climate, this is one that you'll absolutely want to start inside and then transplant it outside because your growing season is much shorter. And like I said, eggplant, Black Beauty, I actually haven't opened this one yet. And this is something that I have on my list to grow. Eggplant in general, I've never grown. And I'm really interested in growing it. I like eggplant. Do I love it? Probably not. It's one of those things that I'll eat it if it's being offered. I like to try to experiment and try to cook eggplant different ways, but it's not something that I've really felt the need to grow just yet. My husband also isn't a big fan of eggplant, and my dad isn't a fan of eggplant. Really just myself, my stepmom, and maybe one other person here in Tennessee likes eggplant. So this might be something that ends up getting put on the back burner. But celery, we will definitely be growing. Okay, next I've got 2 boxes dedicated to February. One is literally all tomatoes, and the other one is kind of a hodgepodge of a couple different things. So first, let me go through my hodgepodge. This is another one where I have more eggplant here. There's like a window kind of with eggplant where you can kind of start it in January. In some areas of the country, you can start it in February, March, in others. So, I mean, again, your standard Black Beauty, nothing to it. Now, I also have quite a few pepper plants. I love to grow peppers, but I'm kind of a wuss when it comes to heat or spice level. So I don't grow things like jalapenos or habaneros or like ghost peppers or anything like that. I really will just grow like bell peppers, cherry peppers. I do like shishitos, and I love pickled pepperoncinis. So I will grow all of those. So you will also see very quickly I have a very strong preference towards botanical interests and MI Gardner, but I'm expanding my horizons, so you may see a few different seed companies thrown in there, and that's why I'm going to show you the seed catalogs that I'm going to look into ordering from this year, because I'm like, we need to be a little bit more cultured, a little bit more well-rounded, try different companies. We don't have to stick to just the same 2, although these will always be my mothership seed companies. So we have the Candy Cane Chocolate Cherry from Botanical Interests. I have these mini snacking bell peppers from Renee's Garden. I actually think there's only like 2 or 3 seeds left in here. I'm mainly keeping this as a reminder to myself to order snacking peppers this year. I love snacking peppers. I love veggie dips, hummus, all of that, especially in the summertime. It's just a really like fresh snack. So we have that. Then these are my shishito peppers from Johnny Seeds. I haven't grown these yet, but I did order them last year and decided to put them off, but I will be trying to grow those this year. I have my Sweet Bell Blend bell peppers, your standard nice sizable bell pepper. Everybody's favorite, the tried and true California Wonder bell pepper from M.I. Gardner. This one I thought was really interesting. This is the Chocolate Beauty Bell from M.I. Gardner. I just think it has a really beautiful, rich color, so we may grow that this year. Next, I have some sweet banana peppers from Botanical Interests. I'm not usually like a sweet pepper person. I like a nice, neutral, mildly spicy pepper. So we'll see. I may end up pickling these because I don't like anything that's too sweet when it comes to peppers. And I also don't like anything too spicy. So I guess you could say I'm a picky pepper grower. I don't know. So lastly, from Burpee, I have these pepperoncinis. I randomly picked these up at Home Depot at the beginning of 2024. And I was like, oh, it's Burpee, like, pretty standard run of the mill type of seed company. And I really did not have high expectations for when I was going to grow these last year. This ended up being by far and wide my most fruitful harvest. Like literally my most abundant harvest came from the 2 pepperoncini plants that I had planted, and I grew them in grow bags with some, cages around them. I could not keep up with the harvest. I was giving these peppers away. I was pickling them. I was cooking them fresh. I had some even just like go bad in the fridge because I put them in the back of the fridge and I forgot about them. I had this huge bowl that I was actually really sad it went to waste. But these I will definitely be growing again because I love a pickled pepperoncini. Okay, so the rest of this 1 February container, I have Bells of Ireland flowers. I don't grow many flowers. I've grown zinnias and nasturtiums, like your typical, and marigolds, your typical kind of, companion flowers, your beneficial flowers for pollinators and keeping pests away in your garden. But I really want to get into growing flowers just for the sake of growing beautiful flowers and not necessarily for their, garden benefits, more so for the pollinators and just to have a beautiful garden in general. Then we have various onions that are from M.I. Gardner, Johnny Seeds. So we have Red Burgundy and Cipollini, I think it's pronounced, from M.I. Gardner. Then we have Patterson and Expression from Johnny Seeds. I grew these last year and I had never grown onions before. And for that being my first year growing onions, these were extremely abundant. So I will likely grow these again, but I might throw in some of those M.I. Gardner ones as well. And then lastly, I have these alpine strawberries that I grew in my very first garden in my first home in the middle of COVID in 2020. And these are just the cutest little strawberries. They're not like snacking strawberries. I mean, they're tiny, tiny. Like they're probably the size of like a lima bean, I would say. So they're more like cute to look at. They are edible. They were more so a snack for my dog in our previous garden. But I kept these around because who knows, I might want to try growing them again. It has been a few years, so the germination rate on these seeds may not be great, but I keep them around because you never know. Then lastly, this one I am excited to try to grow now. This is crisp mint romaine lettuce from M.I. Gardner. I actually tried growing this last fall and it was so hot here in Tennessee for such a long time. Basically, summer extended basically to like November last year. So I had sown these at the beginning of October and everything bolted or it fried, never germinated. I had a really, really terrible experience with fall sowing last year. So I'm going to try this again. I'm going to start it indoors this time and then transplant it outside. I do believe it is frost tolerant. It is cold tolerant. So that's great. We can put these out in the garden. I wouldn't put them out right now. We're actually expecting like a deep freeze and a winter storm this week. So I will probably start these inside, transplant them out in like a month or so once it's just warm enough where we're not having hard freezes. Okay, now for the Mac Daddy, what every gardener, tried and true, far and wide, young, old, veteran, newbie, rookie, whatever, every gardener wants to grow tomatoes, as far as I'm concerned. And this gardener loves to grow tomatoes. So I have an entire box here dedicated to all of my tomato seeds. So first, we have the Italian Roma, very classic from Botanical Interest. I love to grow paste tomatoes. I love to make my own tomato sauce. That is something that I will show you later this year. I'm really excited to expand my garden to have even more space to grow paste tomatoes for tomato sauce. So we will be doing this. I picked up a San Marzano from M.I. Gardener, and I love this particular type of tomato as well. Even just having it fresh on a pizza in the summertime is chef's kiss. Love this kind. I should make a disclaimer that I think in August or September, M.I. Gardener had a huge sale. It was like 50% off of all of their seed packets. So a lot of the tomato seed packets that you're going to see here are from M.I. Gardener, but I have not grown them yet. I really started getting into M.I. Gardener over this past year. So you will see more of that as this year kind of gets underway. So I have this Cherrylicious mix from M.I. Gardener, this Ukrainian purple tomato, which I just thought was really interesting looking. And it's an indeterminate, although it kind of looks like a paste tomato. So I will be growing that as well. I have this purple bumblebee tomato. This kind of reminds me of those like wine tomatoes that you ever see that grow on the vine. Or not wine tomatoes, cocktail tomatoes that you might see at the grocery store. They come in like those little, cardboard inserts with the plastic wrapping, and there might be like 6 or 7 on the vine. This kind of reminds me of that, but a much richer color. This one's really cool. Both of these are yellow tomatoes. One is Moonbeam and the other one is Hartman's Yellow Gooseberry. I love the slightly citrus flavor of these types of tomatoes, or just like, this like color tomato. And so I will probably grow one or the other, probably not both this year, but I picked those up as well. This one, the ultimate, most abundant, fruitful harvest that you could grow. And I swear by this, if you want to grow a tomato that will literally produce for you from June through October, as long as you don't have a hard freeze, get the Sun Gold cherry tomato. This tomato is so prolific to the point where it self-sows every year for me. I don't know how, but it self-sows, and it basically is like a perennial in my garden. Every single year. It was that way when I lived up in Pennsylvania, and it is the exact same way here in Tennessee. I don't know what strong DNA is in these tomatoes, but it is the most prolific thing I've ever grown. Then for some reason last year, I think I accidentally ordered 2 packets of these chocolate cherry tomatoes from Botanical Interest. And I tried it for the first time last year, and it was okay. It was an okay experience. It wasn't a like super prolific. I definitely got a large harvest, but like if you compare it to, Sun Gold, I mean, nothing comes close to Sun Gold. This was okay. I liked the flavor, didn't love it. Liked the texture, didn't love it. It's one of those that it's like, it's interesting to look at. It's a really cool deep color, but other than that, I don't find that to be super flavorful. So I likely won't grow this year. Maybe I'll grow it next year. Who knows? Oh, and another Sun Gold, as you can tell. And ironically, both of these packets are empty, so I need to order more. Now we're getting into the beefsteak slicing tomatoes. This is one area that I definitely want to expand this year. I did not really grow a lot of like slicing tomatoes last year. I tried to grow some heirloom and it was not really successful. Luckily, like paste tomatoes were really successful for me, and then the cherry tomatoes were. So I was fine with that harvest. But this year, I have just been constantly thinking about having BLTs or burgers or even just like tomato and mayo sandwiches. Maybe add some lettuce, a little bit of salt and pepper on a nice fresh slice of bread. It just sounds so good to me. So we're going to try to grow a few different varieties. The first here is the hillbilly tomato from M.I. Gardner. Then we have Aunt Ruby's German green. So I live in the South and I quickly fell in love with fried green tomatoes when I moved down here. So I may try to grow these. We'll see. Next, I have the Tigerella tomato. It just has like really beautiful striping on it. And I just thought it was a really interesting find. Next, I have the persimmon or persimmon. Correct me if I'm pronouncing it incorrectly. Tomato, again from M.I. Gardner. This guy, another good slicer. I really love like really beefy, large ribbed looking tomatoes that just, when you slice into them, they're just juicy. They have a really like wonderful thin skin, but they're really like, meaty, I guess you could say. So this is another one, the big rainbow. I definitely think I'm growing this year. It is just the coolest looking thing. The description on the back is hilarious. It says, these giant tomatoes weigh regularly between 1 and 2 pounds per tomato. Girl, I will definitely be growing this year. Then we have the tropical sunset tomato. It's a slicer, but it's a little bit smaller. So this might be good to actually make some fresh tomato sauces in the summertime, like nice fresh summer pasta with fresh garlic and maybe some basil ripped up in there. Delish. This guy, I literally bought this for the name. It says pork chop. It's a pork chop tomato. Like, that's hilarious. Will I grow it this year? I don't know, but it's a funny name and I just had to have it. This is one that I know is very widely loved in the gardening community, the mortgage lifter. I know gardeners like Acre Homestead, who I watch religiously. She has grown this quite a bit, and I believe she's had pretty good success with this. This is another one that is literally a huge tomato. These regularly weigh over 2 pounds per tomato, so that's pretty wild. Then I have the gold medal tomato, and this is a bicolor. Again, just that really beautiful orange, that halfway between sweet and tangy kind of flavor. Then we have a Valencia tomato. Again, this is like a medium-sized slicer, low acid, very sweet tomato. This tomato, the Quastrali tomato, I may be pronouncing that absolutely terribly. So forgive me if you know the pronunciation to this and you were just listening to me like, this girl is butchering this name. But this tomato, again, looks like very standard beefsteak tomato. Again, have it in a salsa, have it sliced, have it with some burrata and olive oil, fresh cracked pepper in the summertime. Ugh. Giant Crimson. This is, another really standard one. As I'm going through this, I'm realizing I have a problem with collecting tomato seeds. Carbon tomato. Now, this was one that I tried to grow last year. These are the heirloom tomatoes from Renee's Garden. And honestly, this packet is like 4 years old at this point. So I'm not surprised that it didn't have, great harvest last year. This one is the vintage wine tomato from M.I. Gardner. This one is super cool looking. It's like, again, striped, but it's more like pinky red than it is orange. This one is called Black from Tula. This is really cool. I mean, it is like literally almost looks like the carbon black. And then the last ones I have are a few Roma tomatoes. So this is the striped Roma tomato. I thought that was really interesting. The baby Roma tomato. Supernova Roma tomato. Or this is called Roma like. And then from Burpee Organics, just standard Roma tomato. Okay, now getting into March. What do we have here? Okay, so this is a lot of my direct sows. So down here in Tennessee, I can usually start direct sowing many of my spring crops in early to mid-March. So first up here, we have some Sugar Snap peas. So this is the Sugar Daddy from Botanical Interest. Then we have the Sugar Magnolia Snap Pea from a seed company that I actually didn't discover until I moved to Tennessee. And this is from Hudson Valley Seed Company. I have ended up loving this seed company, not only because the product that you actually end up sowing is so prolific, but the artwork is really beautiful on the actual seed packets. They enlist like local starving artists to create the packets, and then the artists get a commission off of the artwork or every seed packet that is sown or sold. So I really love to support companies like that. And I did grow this last year. I've grown it 2 years in a row, and I absolutely love it. We like to chop up the snap peas fresh and put it in a salad. Then I have another eggplant that I actually think I'm going to grow this year. It is just so interesting looking. This is the Turkish orange eggplant. And this is, they produce like, it says 4-inch round eggplants. And it's like a softer flavor, very buttery. So I actually think I'm going to grow this year. I also have some Shasta daisies from M.I. Gardner. This is the flower collection. So just thought it was cute. Now we have a ton of radishes. So I've got this Radiant Radish mix from Hudson Valley. This has always done really well for me. The Easter egg radishes, I grow these every year. They're so easy to grow, so easy to harvest. Literally the only thing that comes between me and radishes are pill bugs. And I have made it my life's mission this year to fully actually get rid of all of the pill bugs, because they ran rampant in my garden last year. And honestly, it pissed me off, like to the point where I was ripping my garden out because there were just so many and they were eating everything. So then we have Cherry Bell radishes, Crimson Giant, French Breakfast. Again, another one of my favorites. Love this. Watermelon radish. I have not grown watermelon radish yet. I bought this packet last year and I sent out like what I'm now deeming my annual request text to my family, and my dad actually requested that I grow watermelon radish this year. So I will definitely be growing that for you, Pops. Then I've got golden ball turnip, Harris model parsnip. We've got cone flowers, black magic kale, and what is this? Matador spinach that I've grown a few times, and that's pretty good. I definitely want to get better with growing kale. I, for some reason, tend to just have so many issues growing kale. And I think it's mostly just like cabbage worms and, you know, just all the pests. So I have really made it a mission of mine this year to get rid of all the as many pests as possible. Keep the beneficial bugs though. Okay, getting into April. So April, we've got calliope carrots, Shin-Kuroda carrots, rainbow carrots. I've got a random packet of Clancy potato seeds. I don't know if I'll grow these. I usually just take potatoes that I have like in my pantry, and then I let them dry out, and then I will grow those in the garden, let them start getting eyes. I also have some alyssum, and I have never grown alyssum, but I hear it's basically like the annual version of phlox. So I may try to grow this too because it's just really pretty. I think it would be really pretty if it just kind of was like sprouting out of the ground, like on the edge of your gardening beds, just to create that like fairy garden vibe. We have some endives, whatever you want to call them. Merlot lettuce. This is so prolific. This is like the lettuce version of my sun gold tomatoes. This freaking lettuce self sows. It comes back every year like a perennial. It's heat tolerant. It takes a very long time to bolt. It is very tasty, very nutritious, from one of my new favorite seed companies, Hudson Valley. So I will definitely be growing this again. This is my little thank you packet from Botanical Interests of all my little lettuces, like little variety pack of lettuces. I always save this for like what I call a rainy day if I'm like desperate to like get something in the garden and it's not like one of my precious seed packets. I've got Red Sails leaf lettuce from Botanical Interest. Giant mustard. I've never grown mustard before, but I am going to try to grow it this year because I hear that this is more heat tolerant than most other lettuces. I have this Vivian lettuce, butter crunch lettuce, another mixed pack. This one's called the Ultimate Salad Bowl from Hudson Valley, lacinato kale, and then rocket arugula. I love to grow arugula, not just for salads. I'm ironically, you know, by looking at this, you would think I'm like a huge salad person. I'm actually not. I have been like forcing myself to try to get more greens in my diet. So this year, I'm definitely going to increase the number of greens that I grow. Okay, now we have some more interesting seeds in the second April box. And this is where a lot of like melons and pumpkins and squashes kind of come into play because this is likely when I get them into the garden because they take a pretty long time to get to maturity. The first one here is the Mexican sour gherkin. It's a cucamelon and it's just like the cutest thing ever. I cannot wait to grow this. Then I have this, it's called a Kakai pumpkin, just really beautiful striping. It's a Japanese small type of pumpkin. So I just think that would be really cute for, you know, decor around the house. Then we've got cucumbers. This is actually one thing where this is like a gardening rule that I like to break. I actually start my cucumbers inside and I transplant them and everything's fine. Everybody tells you only start your cucumbers outside. Don't start them inside because they are susceptible to transplant shock. If you do it the right way, you can start your cucumbers inside and have cucumbers by like May. So stay tuned for that. That's going to be in a future video. But I love to pickle cucumbers. I love to have fresh cucumbers in salads or dip them in like a veggie dip. So I've got Endeavor, pickle bush, and then a straight 8 slicing. Then I've got some broccoli. I did not have great success growing broccoli last year. Now, it was my first time growing broccoli, so that could just be, you know, a beginner's fail. But this is DeChico broccoli, so I may try my hand at this again this year. This is actually a packet full of broccoli rabe that is from my stepmom's father. He has basically been kind of like a grandfather, grandparent figure in my life for probably the last like 10, 15 years. And we call him Toto. And he grows his own broccoli rabe every year. And I love broccoli rabe. The first time I had it when I met my stepmom's family, roughly 15, 16 years ago, I fell in love with broccoli rabe because you have the olive oil and the wilted leaves and the garlic, and it's just so buttery and delicious and slightly bitter. So I'm going to try to grow that this year. So thank you, Toto. Then I have borage. This is a monster. This thing takes over your garden. Gardener beware. If you buy borage, it is great at keeping the pests away. I love that, but it will literally self-sow and pop up in areas of your garden and your yard that are so far away from your garden beds, you don't know like what is going on. It literally feels like you get an infestation of this, but it keeps the pests away. So I love to grow this. I actually am going to try to take the petals from this flower this year and dry it to make my own tea. I'm really interested in starting to make my own teas. So stay tuned for this monster to make a return. Then we've got all different kinds of flowers. So we've got a teddy bear sunflower. It's just so cute and fluffy. It's so fluffy, I'm gonna die. Then we've got calendula, mammoth sunflower. And then in my first garden, when I had 2 4x4 beds built by this cute couple. It was the middle of COVID. They were looking to make some extra cash on the side. So I enlisted them to build some nice garden beds for me and drop them off at my house. And they were just like the nicest people on planet Earth. And the wife, she actually mailed me like a thank you card for supporting like their small business, and dropped off some sunflower seeds. So I haven't grown them just because they're so precious to me. I want to keep them forever. And then I have another random packet of alyssum that should probably be in the March container, but we'll leave it in April for now. Oh my gosh, I cannot. We are literally, I'm looking at the time. We're 36 minutes into this video and we're only at April. So I better speed it up, girl. This is going to be a long video. Okay, let's get into May. Okay, now for May, we have pole beans, bush beans, all the beans. Beans, they're good for your heart. Yes, so we have Kentucky Wonder pole beans. I love to grow these, although I'm not very good at growing them. I'm going to try to get better. And then I have these Royal Burgundy. I didn't grow these last year. I just bought them in the fall, I think. And I cannot wait to grow these because they look beautiful. And then I have a very dirty seed packet of Provider beans from Johnny Seeds. I did grow these the last 2 years and they actually do a pretty good job. I think my issue is I need to be sowing more to get more plants because I think these are more successful in numbers rather than only having like 2 or 3 plants. I think I need to have like 6 to 8 to like really feel like I'm getting a good harvest. Okay, so that was it for oh no, that was just one of 2 May packets. Okay. Oh, there's 3 May boxes. Oh my gosh. Okay. Let's get to it. All right. So we have Crimson Sweet Watermelon, Ford Hook Zucchini. I took a break from zucchini last year. I actually took a break from all squashes last year, and I greatly missed my zucchini. So I will be growing zucchini again. I don't know if I'll try the Ford Hook or if I'll do Black Beauty. I've done Black Beauty in the past, and it is wonderful, and it does a great job for me. I have Waltham Butternut Squash. I am probably not going to grow this year because they have another type of seed or another type of squash that I really want to try to find seeds for and grow this year, and you will see that in part 2 of this video. Then I have spaghetti squash. I love spaghetti squash. I love it so much. My husband hates spaghetti squash. He hates eggplant. He hates spaghetti squash. He hates butternut squash. And they're like 3 of my favorites, especially spaghetti squash. I love to do like little like spaghetti boats in the summertime or whenever squash is widely available. And I love to do like meatballs in a red sauce and then put it in the spaghetti squash as like a little boat. It's so delicious. I actually have 2 of these. And then the last two in this box, I have Masquis de Maroc squash. And then I have Gill's Golden Pippin squash. So these will likely just be, you know, decorative type of squashes, not anything that I'm going to plan on eating like the butternut or the spaghetti squash. Now let's get into the last one for May. I promise, guys, we are almost on this video. I may start speeding up some of this because this is getting out of hand. I realize my seed collection is very large for someone that doesn't grow that much stuff. Indian corn. I really want to try to grow this. I actually grew corn in my very first garden in my first house back up in Pennsylvania and got a couple ears of corn. They were not edible by any means. They were tiny and stunted, and I was just happy that I could grow corn. Obviously, you need to grow corn in numbers because of the like pollination that occurs from the wind, and the pollen drips or sprinkles down onto the husks. It's a whole process that I'm learning more about. But Indian corn seems like a lot of fun to grow and then decorate with in the fall. And then we have a lot of deer in our neighborhood, and if the deer come by and enjoy it, I don't care. They're getting food. I'm happy. Then we've got nasturtium. I always grow nasturtium in the garden every single year. It's a non-negotiable for me. I'm always growing it, and it's beautiful too. I have some bachelor's button that I'm looking forward to trying for the first time, as well as cosmos. I've never grown either of these before, but I think they're just so dainty and cute, and I'm trying to do a little bit of a cut flower garden this year. So we'll see how that goes. Lupine. This, I'm pretty sure I should have planted this last year. Oh no, I can plant it in May, but it doesn't bloom for like a year. So you don't get blooms until the second year. But I mean, look how gorgeous that is. I've had this for like 2 years, so we'll see if we have a good germination rate. More sunflowers. We've got the Heirloom Beauties from Botanical Interest. Sunflower Autumn Beauty from Survival Garden Seeds. I've actually never heard of this company. This must have been gifted by somebody because I've never heard of this company, but it's really beautiful. And then some zinnias. This is like laughable to me because I literally have 2 giant packages, like 5-pound packages of zinnia seeds that I am basically just going to like sprinkle and leave and see what happens with this year. So it's like really funny that I have this like baby little seed packet, like, ooh, I'm going to grow like 5 zinnias. No, I literally have like thousands of seeds. That wraps up May. Now we're going to get into August, the final month before we get into our herbs and wildflowers. So August is really for fall crops or perennials that have to be sown in the fall. So 2 of them I'm really, really looking forward to and going to try to commit myself to grow both of these. They're both, pretty sure they're both perennials. Fennel is one. I love fennel. I love fennel in sausage. I love fennel, fresh fennel, just to eat. If you've ever had like literally a slice of fresh fennel, it is delicious. The other one is radicchio. Oh my gosh, I love radicchio so much. And this is one that I'm going to try to grow this fall. And then the last one in the August container is delphinium. So this is one that you start indoors about 8 weeks before your last frost. Girl, this needs to be in the February container. So I'll be moving this. This does not belong here. So again, like just going back to that idea of growing beautiful things just to grow beautiful things and not necessarily feel like I've got to be this like efficient workhorse of a gardener every year and everything needs to be efficient and have a purpose. And sometimes you just want to look at beautiful things and have a beautiful bouquet in your house or just have a beautiful garden because you want to enjoy where you live and not just feel like you're constantly going out there to harvest tomatoes or potatoes or peppers and then you've got to do something with it. So Really trying to lean into that this year. Okay, getting into the herbs. We have Italian large leaf, purple basil. I love to grow this. It tastes like regular basil. Maybe has like a little bit more of like a Thai influence in that basil. If you've ever had like pho or any Thai dishes that have basil in it, it's like that kind of flavor, a little bit more of that kind of licoricey flavor. And then I have the Italian Genovese basil, which I grow every year. I grew a ton of this last year and my garden smelled incredible. I feel like every time I went into my garden last year and it was like basil trees basically. This just makes your garden smell delicious and you can cut from it every single day and cook with it. Chives, I'm absolutely growing chives this year. Biggest reason for that, chives and dill, is I have fallen in love with making my own homemade green goddess dressing. So if you know Baked by Melissa, the cupcake lady on like Instagram and TikTok and all of that, and she did that viral like green goddess salad where it was like chopped super fine, where you could like dip a chip in it and eat it. Well, I basically took all the flavors of that and made my own green goddess dressing a couple months ago, and it has quite literally been like a hyperfixation dressing for me that I am now eating salads multiple times a week for this dressing alone, and chives are one of the main ingredients in it. So I will absolutely be growing a ton of these this year to have fresh green goddess dressing whenever I want. Russian tarragon, I've never grown this before, but I'm really interested in growing it, drying it, and then making my own like poultry seasonings with it, because tarragon is usually a pretty main ingredient with poultry seasoning or even like an Italian seasoning. Summer savory, another one, definitely never grown it before, going to grow it this year, and try to dry and make my own seasoning blends. Catnip, just because I have cats and I think it's funny, and try to grow these inside and see what the cats do. Slow bolt cilantro, self-explanatory. I live in the South. Cilantro doesn't like the heat. So I have a window of about like, I'm not kidding, like 4 weeks, 4 good weeks before this bolts. So this is one that I definitely need slow bolting varieties. Italian oregano, again, self-explanatory, making my own seasoning blends. English thyme, this is like thyme, rosemary, and lavender, I would say are like my holy trinity herb, Mediterranean herbs, where I don't even have to cook with it. I don't even have to eat it. I love to go out in the garden and like just rub my hands over these herbs and then like just sniff it. The like incredible smell that thyme, rosemary, and lavender give off when like you rub it between your fingers. It's like, it is quite literally like aromatherapy. It puts me in a better mood. I can't explain it, especially the smell of thyme. I absolutely love it. I cook with all of these too. So sage, a lesser used herb for me. I have to be in like the right kind of mood or the right kind of mindset to cook with sage. Sometimes the smell can give me a little bit of a headache, so I have to be careful with it. I'm a very like neurosensitive type of person when it comes to smells. So sage is one of those that I have to be a little bit careful with. Rosemary, like I said, it's one of those that I just absolutely love to grow, just smell it, and then just throw big sprigs of it in with like a roast or a chicken, and just give that really beautiful Mediterranean flavor. Flat leaf parsley, this is, I mean, I cook with this literally almost every single day. Another main ingredient of that green goddess dressing, as well as dill. That's like a huge ingredient. We love to cook with dill around here. Great for pickling, great for making like tzatziki sauce in the summertime or any time of year, really. So it's really, really delicious. I have a couple packets of German chamomile, and I didn't have a lot of success with this last year. And I think it's just because it got fried by the sun. So I need to find a little bit of like, one, I need loamier soil. that is just has a little bit more airflow, and then not be in direct sunlight all the time. But I want to grow this to make my own chamomile tea. Then I have some Munstead lavender, self-explanatory. Who doesn't love lavender? Wild bergamot. This is one that I was growing it in pots last year, and it was doing really well. Like the growth was incredible. And then all of a sudden it was like it just stopped growing, stunted, never bloomed. So it says it's a perennial in zones 3 through 9. So I'm going to see if the pots that I put it in last year come back, or if I just had like a bad batch, or if I did something completely wrong. But it was just a very strange growing experience because like I said, it was like on a roll for like a couple months and it got huge, and then all of a sudden it just stopped, no blooms, nothing. So we'll see if it comes back this year. And then lastly, for my herbs, spearmint. This is always grown in a pot by itself, and it's just one of those, it is such a cliche, but it's so true. Mint will quite literally seize your entire garden if you let it. If you don't plant it by itself, it will take over your entire garden. So cautionary tale, I did that once, literally took over my garden. Literally, it was like a monster and just ate all of my other herbs, all of my other medicinal herbs, and took over the entire garden. Okay, so that was it for the herbs. So lastly, I'm just going to flash you some of the wildflowers. And this is like a true hodgepodge of random stuff. So I'll go into what I do know. The first one here, another one from Hudson Valley. This is the edible flower mix. So it's a mix of nasturtiums, borage, marigolds, and more. That it's all edible, so you can put them on cakes if you like to bake and make really beautiful, like floral looking desserts. You can put them in salads, but they're all edible. They're really beautiful. I love to keep these on hand. Just if I want to add like a little extra spruce of something in the garden, something colorful and beautiful. Next, I have these two huge packets of flower mixes. One is called Bring Home the Butterflies, and the other one is called Songbird Delight. I haven't used these yet. Another thing that I'm going to be doing this year, right along with the zinnias, I am basically going to take these packets and just sprinkle them in a few select spots on my property and just see what happens. Like, I've had these for a few years. The germination rate might not be great, but even if I get like a small patch of flowers from it, I'll be happy. And then lastly, I've got, and I mentioned these in my last video, I have these little like paper mache discs from this candle company that is my all-time favorite candle company. It's called Linnea or Linea. I want to say it's Linnea though, candles. And they're sold at a little shop. They have an online store, I should say. But they're sold at this little shop here in Tennessee, about like 35-40 minutes south of where I live. And with every candle, they put these little paper mache discs on top, but they have flower seeds pressed into the discs. So you can quite literally take this disc, plant it into the ground, water it, and you will get beautiful wildflowers. So these are like my unknowns. This is something that I will keep around and maybe try to experiment with it this year. All right, guys, that was lengthy. I didn't realize until getting into this and actually talking through every packet of seeds with you how large my collection is. And it's by far not like the biggest seed collection in the world, but it's definitely bigger than I thought it was. And so with that, I realized I have been talking for like literally almost an hour. I think it says it's like 54 minutes. So I might have to speed up a few points in this video just so you're not bored out of your mind. But with that, I am going to save my favorite seed catalogs and new seed catalogs, as well as my 2025 wish list, as like a part 2 to this video, because I don't want this video to end up being like 2 hours long. You know, new YouTuber, I don't think that people really want like, you know, an hour long video or more. So I'll stop here with my seed collection and stay tuned for part 2 of this little mini series where I will go over with you seed catalogs that I like to order from, new ones that I'm interested in perusing this year, as well as my 2025 wish list. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. Thanks for listening to me babble for literally almost an hour today. I am so excited that I got to share my seed collection with you. I'm even more excited to kick off this gardening season with you and get into more fun stuff. So I'll catch you in the next video. Thanks, guys.